What do you do differently from everyone else? The more that you are consistent with the app, the more that it will favor your content. Connect with your followers, nurture them, build a community, talk to them. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Call Her Creator. I'm your host, Caitlin Rhodes, also known as Social Marketing Queen, and this podcast is powered by Stan. So today's episode, we're going to get into some Instagram growth tips because I feel like lately I've been scrolling through my newsfeed and people are complaining about reach. They're complaining about engagement. They're talking about bringing chronological order back, which we know those days are over. The algorithm's here now. So what we're going to do today is dive in to different ways that you can increase your engagement. You can increase your reach. And when that happens, that's when the algorithm starts to favor your account and share you to more people. And when you get in front of more people, you have the chance to grow more followers. So we're going to talk about different ways that we can do that. We'll go over hacks that I've tried and tested and that I love. I personally have used some of these growth hacks for my Call Her Creator account, which we just hit 1,000 followers. We're actually close to 1,100 now. And I've been testing some of these different tips on here. So these have actually been tested. I'm going to share my strategy with you guys. And then, I think after you listen to this episode, you'll have a little bit more insight into what the algorithm is looking for, what you can do to be betterly seen, if that's a word, betterly. I don't know if that's a word, but let's get into it. All right, so before we get into the episode, I like to start with a social media update. This isn't a new update per se, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, so I thought that I would bring it up. Facebook is currently testing a generative AI captions tool. So when you go to post a status on Facebook, when you write your caption or you go to write your caption, you'll see something that says write with AI. And so this is a cool little feature that Facebook is doing, Meta's doing to kind of help you out with your captions. They want you to write engaging captions. Obviously, guys, this means that captions do matter. I've always said that. I think not only do they help engage your audience, but they help with using keywords and the algorithm understanding what your post is about. So with this little Write with AI tool, if you tap it, Meta's systems will basically generate a caption based on your existing post or image. So you could even write a caption and then click that button and the AI will rewrite what you've written. Or if you don't know what to post, my brother was texting me last night. He just went to Utah and he wanted to write something witty for a caption. So he always texts me and I'm like, bro, use AI. So this is a cool feature that I think a lot of people will appreciate. Those that just don't have that creative bone or they don't have time to come up with a creative caption, use the AI generator. One of the example captions, when I saw someone click it, I was reading a blog about this. And so they clicked the button and the caption that it wrote was, I mean, seriously, what even is this day? So I think it was a little bit generic, but it was funny. So they were still being witty with it. So give it a chance. If you've got this feature on your Facebook, try it out, see what it does for you. I've seen this over on LinkedIn as well, which is really great because I think that LinkedIn is a place to write long form content. So try it out, see if you like it. Maybe it can help you write some captions. And then before we get into today's episode, I always like to highlight my reviews. Thank you so much to everyone that takes the time out of their day to listen to an episode and go leave me a 5-star review. It means more to me than I can ever tell you guys. This week's testimonial comes from Stella. She says, here for the free advice. I give it a 10 out of 10 if you want to monetize and grow your Instagram account. Again, these mean so much to me and it's how we measure the success of my podcast. So please, if you have time today, go leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'd love to see a 5-star review and I will highlight you on the podcast. If you're not the review type either, it would really mean a lot to me if you just shared my podcast with a friend. The more people that listen, the better we can grow. And I would just really appreciate it. Okay, so time to get into this week's episode 15, which I can't believe we are here. 15 ways to grow your Instagram account. Oh, I'm sorry. This is episode 16. Dang, we are just moving and grooving over here. And it's so funny. Like, it's really true. Like, when you do what you love, it's really not work. And that's what I preach, especially with this podcast. Like, this podcast was made to help you make money doing what you love. And that's truly what I am doing. So I don't even realize that this is work half the time. But yeah, we're on episode 16. So 15 ways to grow your Instagram account in 2024. I have some really juicy tips for you, but I hope that these tips, like some of these are really easy to do. So if you can just follow along, try to put some of them into place, I promise you, you will see some change in your account. Hopefully it's positive. It's going to be positive if you're putting these into place. So let's dive in. Okay, so to start these tips out, I'm kind of going in the order that I see fit for someone that's really struggling with growth. So this first tip, some of y'all are going to be like, okay, we already know that, but I've got to start somewhere. And this has to be said. So tip number 1 is to have a strong personal brand, but you also need to highlight your unique selling point. This is also known as a USP. Little marketing tip here for you guys. When you're coming up with your product or your service or whatever kind of business you're trying to run, you need to have a unique selling point. What's going to set you apart from Joe Schmo? We always talk about Joe Schmo on this podcast, but what's going to set you apart from him? What do you do differently from everyone else? That is your unique selling point. So before you even start selling on the gram or Facebook or TikTok, you need to make sure that your branding is in line. What I suggest to do if you don't have any branding at all, go into Canva, click on Create Brand Kit, and then you can go in there and pull some colors together, some fonts. Canva even gives you examples, like they'll give you some inspiration. I personally, when I'm working with a new client that has no branding whatsoever, I always suggest to them, go look at Pinterest, go search up like a word that is relevant to your industry. When we went for our rebrand in 2023, it was last year. Darby actually was like, hey, there's these aesthetics on Pinterest. If you type in that girl, you'll just see all these very like swanky, trendy, like branding, pictures, colors, all that. So I went into Pinterest and I typed in that girl vibes or something like that. And I was blown away with how much it actually matched what I was looking for. So if you could like name or put some kind of keyword in place of what describes your brand and then search that on Pinterest, you will be surprised at what all you find. So that's a really great starting point for you to get inspired by branding. And then along with that, we have to remember we're not the only creators out there. You're not the only Instagram coach. You're not the only TikTok coach. There's a ton of fitness gurus. So what makes you different? And that's where your unique selling point comes into play. USP. What makes your business unique? For me, there's a lot of social media agencies out there. There's a lot of social media coaches out there. I believe that what makes us different is, we do very personalized, customized content based on you and your target audience specifically, whereas some agencies are one size fits all kind of deal. So I believe that that's kind of our unique selling point, is that we do it very personalized to you. When it comes to my creator side, my Instagram account, I think that my unique selling point is like my humor and my way of making social media fun. Again, there's so many of us out there, so I have to be different. So that's why I try to use my personality as much as I can in my marketing. I try to dance when I can just to be fun and show off really who I am. So if you haven't done this, you really need to take a step back and kind of look at your brand, your services, your offerings, what makes you different from everyone else, and lean into that. That is what's going to make someone choose you over him or her. And then another part of that too, another example, I had written it down in my notes, so I want to make sure I mention it. When it comes to your services, like if there's a way that you do things, maybe you do things the holistic way, or maybe you do things the paid ads way. Like those are the things that you need to highlight to show off what makes you different from everyone else. So that's just another little example to help you kind of discover what makes you different, what is your unique selling point. And if you just are having a really hard time with this and you can't decide what your unique selling point is, go talk to ChatGPT. Ask him about different unique selling points based on X industry and kind of see what he tells you. And then you could kind of take some of those examples and inspiration to come up with your own. All right, tip number 2 kind of plays into the branding as well. I will stand on this mountain, hill. I will die on this hill. Create a cohesive feed, aesthetically pleasing, cohesive. I was going through Instagram yesterday and someone's like, it does not matter what your profile looks like, but I just cannot agree with that because I think first impressions are everything, especially on social media, because we have such a, short attention span. I believe that when I land on a profile, it better be cohesive. I better see the same branding everywhere. You better be talking about the same thing over and over again, like the same topic. If you're all over the place talking about kitty cats and fitness and you're a mom and you also do a marketing, but you're also a math coach, like that just is overwhelming and just freaks me out because there's too much going on and I can't handle it. So I'll just immediately click off the profile. But if I land on your page and it's all focused on one huge topic and like all of your stuff looks cohesive, easy to read, then I'm probably going to follow you over the other thing that I suggested. I think that when it comes to visiting an account, everyone gives it a brief audit. They do, whether they want to admit it or not. First impressions are everything. So if your profile is a mess, if your branding is off and you're talking about 50 million different things, I'm probably not going to resonate with you or follow you. And I think a lot of other people can agree with me on that. Now, when I say cohesive feed, I don't mean that it has to be perfect. I don't mean that every reel has to have a cover photo. I mean, if you go over to my Instagram account right now on Social Marketing Queen or Call Her Creator, both accounts, I don't have a specific like carousel static reel, cover photo. Like, no, like it's all just what I post that day. But you will notice that all of my reels, I use the same 3 to 4 different colors. I use the same text. So it all just kind of flows. I guess that's what I'm trying to tell you guys is just make sure your profile flows. It doesn't have to be perfect because people don't want perfectly packaged people. They want real, messy, somewhat messy, but gosh, now I'm scared that what I'm telling you is kind of going against what I'm saying, but don't be too messy to where you're all over the place, scatterbrained, confusing people, but be yourself and be true to what you're preaching, what you're teaching, what you're selling. And if you do that, I believe your feed will go together. But the main thing here, guys, is stick to the same couple of colors. This is why a brand kit is so important in Canva. Stick to the same fonts. I don't want to see a reel on your page with like the scribble font and then another one you're using bright green with the regular font. Like, no. Choose what you want to use. Don't use the scribble font, by the way. It's hard to read. And don't use bright colors. Choose what you want to use and then use it over and over again so people can recognize your branding. Tip number 3, optimize your bio and your profile. I talk about this in almost every single podcast episode. Your Instagram profile will get much more traction if you optimize it for search. So you've only got 150 characters when it comes to your Instagram profile. You've only also got one profile picture. So you want to make sure it's informative, it's short and sweet, it includes relevant keywords. If you really need me to deep dive in this, you can go back to episode number 1 where I talk about getting started and growing your first 1,000 followers because I will break this down for you step by step. But since that's not the main focus of today's episode, I'll just kind of tell you what I talk about over there. But one of them is adding keywords to your profile name. For example, mine is Caitlin Rhodes Social Media Agency. I believe Call Her Creator is Call Her Creator. It might say marketing podcast or it might just say the podcast, but you see how I have those keywords in there? Social Media Agency, podcast host. So when people go to search those keywords, hopefully my profile pops up at the top. I also use keywords in my actual bio. So my description there has keywords. I tell you why you should follow me. That's very important. And then I try to show off accolades or like something that shows my expertise in the specific field that we're talking about, the industry. So I think that's very important too. But make sure your bio is completely filled out. Use up those 150 characters. Dial in your link in bio. Use Stan. Get a Stan store so that people can easily purchase from you, learn from you. And yeah, just make sure that your whole profile is filled out. And then with that, once you have your bio filled out, that's when you can also focus on your branding. So both tip 1, 2, 3, all 3 tips go together in synchronicity for you to be found on Instagram and for you to actually grow on Instagram. Tip number 4 for growing on Instagram and getting your content seen is to write descriptive captions with keywords. A few years ago, you could only search Instagram Explore using hashtags, but now when you put in a keyword, it will show you everything from top hashtags, top location posts, top usernames that come up with that, top profiles, top post. You can type in whatever you want there. So that means writing relevant, descriptive captions using specific keywords. It can seriously impact your content's discoverability on Instagram. Hello, Instagram SEO. I actually just did a podcast episode on this as well. I think it was a few back. But I go into great detail on that episode on SEO and what all you can actually optimize on Instagram, because there's a lot. You can do alt text on photos, you can do descriptive captions, you can use hashtags, your profile. There's so many things that you can dial in for search engine optimization and to be discovered on Instagram and really any social media channel. So go check out that episode if you have not already. But once you optimize your Instagram captions with relevant keywords, descriptive keywords, you're more likely to appear on the Explore page versus if you don't. So it's a win-win for you to write descriptive captions. And with descriptive captions comes hashtags, and you need to use good hashtags that make sense for your industry and your content. So Instagram hashtags are still one of the best tools to get your content seen. When you use relevant hashtags that are targeted to a specific audience, you are going to get in front of the correct audience that will then find your profile and they'll follow you because it makes sense to them. If you're not sure what kind of hashtags to use, you can always do industry research. You could use the tool Flick. I love to use Flick for hashtags. Or you can just start typing in keywords on Instagram and see what pops up, and those will kind of help you with your hashtags as well. Instagram allows you to post up to 30 hashtags. So the way that I like to break those up is I'll do keyword hashtags that are specific to your industry, location-based hashtags. Even if you can serve the whole United States or the whole UK or the whole world, pick big locations that you want to target. So for me, I tried to target the entire US. I work with people out of the country too, but I'll pick big cities in the United States to target, like Nashville, New York City, because those are where my target audiences live. It's these, bigger companies that live in those towns. So I'll use those as my location-based hashtags. Focus on your post as well. So if I am posting specifically about maybe the importance of hashtags, then obviously my hashtag would be hashtag viral hashtags or something like that. So industry specific, keyword specific, post specific, and location specific. That is how I come up with all 30 of my hashtags. Do I use all 30? Not all the time. I typically will use probably up to 15, but that's just because either I'm being lazy with it or I just don't have time. But if you plan out your content, I would use up to 30. For our clients here, we do a hashtag vault, and we break everything up by keywords, location, industry, and we basically copy and paste different hashtags every single post. So you're not getting stagnant with the same hashtags every time. You're changing them out. I have read that Instagram will flag your post if you use the same copy and paste hashtags every single time. So make sure that you are changing them up whenever you can, just to maximize the discoverability there. Tip number 6 is to create a consistent Instagram posting schedule. Now, if you're smart with this, say you're just getting started, I think it's so much easier to put schedules into place when you're just getting started. But for example, we just started the Call Her Creator account, and to get us started, to get us used to posting, we did a Monday, Wednesday, Friday posting schedule. So it was easy for me to stick to that schedule. I knew what to expect every week. And then the algorithm also starts to learn your posting schedule too. So in a perfect world, if you really want to grow on Instagram, you would post at least twice a day, Monday through Sunday. But a lot of people can't start with that. They can't handle that type of posting schedule. So minimize that. Start with 3 posts a week. And then once you get that and you're staying consistent with it, then maybe do 4 posts a week, then do 5 posts a week, but just stay consistent with it. The more that you are consistent with the app, the more that it will favor your content and send it to more people. I promise you, the more time you spend on the app, they start to favor your account over others, because I see a direct correlation with Social Marketing Queen and Call Her Creator, because I'm on Social Marketing Queen every single day just because that's like my main hub for my Instagram marketing. But I've started getting on Call Her Creator like 3 or 4 times a week. And I'm noticing the more that I spend, the more time I spend on there, the more my content like gets more likes, comments, and shares. I get DMs. So just be consistent with your posting. Figure out a schedule that works for you, that you can keep up with. Stick to it for 90 days and see how things roll. I promise you, you will see some growth there if you can stay consistent. Tip number 7, find the best time to post. So here is how I find the best time to post. It used to be people would tell you to go into Instagram, look at your professional dashboard, click on your followers, and then you'll see what time of day they're on the app. But as my agency started growing, I started noticing that everybody's posting time was the same exact time on everyone's account. So I was like, there's no way this is real. This can't be accurate. So we've actually started testing different times for different accounts. We also use Metricool to schedule our content now, and they have much better analytics for us. And actually, I think that what they tell us is more accurate because it's different for everyone and it makes more sense. But if you don't have something like Metricool that will show